Hello, welcome back to the channel. This will be a video regarding Ketu Men. I feel like I kind of want to cover the masculine traits or the masculine inclinations based on people who have nakshatras ruled by Rahu. Those would be in Ashwini, Magha, and Mula specifically, but Ketu Men. So basically, I started off with Henry VIII, who has Ketu placements, and I was kind of interested in how that impacted his life. Based on my research, he created a more absolute form of monarchy in which the king held the unprecedented control over the state's decisions, making him one of the most powerful monarchs in European history at the time. Henry VIII, unconventional and independent, he possessed deep insights into situations and people. A lot of Ketu people, they might not be overtly social, but they usually tend to draw in a lot of supporters. So they usually encounter significant life changes marked by profound periods of self reflection and rebirth, since Ketu is a very dark element of the south node. It's the eclipse point of the moon, right? So that happens at night, basically. It rules that kind of period. And the moon rules audiences in general and the common people and the common man. So the reformations that he did and why he got so along with the Pluto and Aquarius era in which he was living in and was able to establish a new renaissance. You can check out my earlier videos in my astrology transits playlist for more information on that. But there was a lot of self-reflection, definitely. Quiet intellectuals, they often remark that his daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, was very much of an intellectual and took a lot of traits from him as well. These are people who understand the world on a more metaphysical level. There's a lot of controversy usually associated with Ketu people or Ketu men and women in general, like Amy Winehouse or Henry VIII. He also initiated the dissolution of monasteries, which I thought was interesting, just because Ketu rules dissolution, or kind of that beheading, the kind of the root of anything and everything, right? So involved the closure of monasteries, covens, and friaries across England. The land and wealth were seized by the crown, and many monks and nuns were displaced or executed. So you can see this kind of not wanting anything else to threaten his power. This move was in part of a larger, wider religious and political shift away from Catholicism, which was kind of putting the power of Europe into the hands of Rome. Dissolution is a very Ketu topic. Under Henry, the monarchy became more independent of nobility and the royal authority expanded. The king worked to ensure no one could challenge the supremacy of the throne. Ketu represents the process of spiritual growth that comes from isolation, detachment, and renunciation. Through the immersion of intuition and ascetic practices, Ketu facilitates the shedding of life's illusions and aids in the journey towards spiritual enlightenment, demonstrating how its influence tends to embody the more complex and challenging aspects of the human experience on the path to spiritual release. Rahu is encountering new karmas, though, as it projects more of its desires into the world, whereas Ketu is releasing or shedding or detaching to make room for new and the truth, right? Beyond any illusions or any kind of lies. Wherever Ketu is placed signifies where the soul is stripped of its external dependencies and illusions, which can be quite harsh in these natives' lives, but also gives them a sense of support from the ancestors. So for Henry VIII, his moon was ruled by Ketu, which would be the feminines, and he was commonly associated with beheading his wives as well. And his mother left his life, which is also ruled by the moon, early when he was only 11 years old. So he felt gravely disappointed in a lot of the women in his life for not producing a male heir, and the only woman who actually unexpectedly inherited the throne of his children after all the other heirs had died was Queen Elizabeth, which his mother also had the name Queen Elizabeth. So it's interesting that that was the common thread that passed down. If Ketu nakshatra ruled your sun sign, you might see this as a father passing away, definitely. If it's in the third house, like a planet in the third house ruled by Ketu, those could be siblings. He also lost his brother as well. And becoming, exactly. And so these people that are in our lives that we lose, basically they're away from the realm of illusions, which is what Rahu rules. So they're more of an invisible, stronger presence now, a more spiritual, powerful, metaphysical presence around the person. So let's see what else we've got. It just goes to show how strong all of our karmas are interconnected and why we need to have realization on the people we get involved with, because everything is interconnected. So if we have a sibling that has a certain placement, it could affect us, or if we have a friend, etc. Ketu indicates where one possesses a natural power brought into this incarnation from a previous mastery in prior lifetimes. Tapping into this energy requires a process of purification. Ketu is very hot, right? It's even hotter than the sun. Which is funny because if you actually think about it, K2 and the moon rules ancestors, right? And K2 is the eclipse point of the moon. And blue fire, which is associated with ghosts, is the hottest flame, right? So, but that's not like the sun. We only see blue flames in the darkness. So this is definitely people who feel compelled to let go of attachments, desires, or even identities that no longer serve their spiritual growth. K2's malefic character can be understood as a necessary catalyst for transformation, just as the dragon's tail signifies the end of a creature and a headless form denotes a lack of conventional sensory perception, so a sense of invisibility and invisible power and invisible kind of metaphysical concepts. K2's influence is about the cessation of the familiar, more comfortable aspects of life, or the illusions of life, right? Things that are harming us that aren't actually the truth. Similar to Rahu, it challenges individuals by disrupting the status quo in ways that might initially appear destructive or sabotaging. They force introspection and reassessment on one's life path for the sake of uncovering a higher truth. Mula, or the roots, which is the master of Ketu nakshatras, rules the truth stripped of all illusions. Ashwini embodies a dynamic, vivacious essence. So this is the first Ketu nakshatra. This nakshatra conveys notions of speed, agility, vitality, courage, and tenacity. So I believe these are all traits associated with Henry VIII. Quick in thought and action, carrying a persistent zest for life that propels them towards new adventures. Constant pursuit of novelty, which obviously he wasn't very pleased with all of his different wives, can manifest as a tendency towards restlessness or impulsivity, which can be particularly dangerous given Ketu's themes of temptation and continual transformation. Ashwini's initiatory nature comes with a caveat of dropping old paths and starting again. The influence of Ketu in this nakshatra forces new beginnings. So his life was definitely bringing monarchy into like the modern world and steeping their culture and their country into the beginnings of the scientific revolution and the Protestant Reformation, which supported scientific revolution. And sometimes this can be harsh for the natives and those around them, as shown through the people that got beheaded around him, right? They can be a sort of hit it and quit it when it comes to many different things. Ashwini Nakshatra also holds a special significance, as it is the exaltation power of the sun, which is the father or the leader or the king, right? A factor that adds another layer of complexity to Ketu's influence in this nakshatra. So it's like Ashwini, people with those placements, they're basically acting the role of a king, but they're doing so in a way that's kind of shedding what a king is used to doing. Their bodies also usually in Ashwini and in Aries, which rules the physical body, tend to be large and brawny. And I believe Henry VIII was known for having that sort of body as well. The sun's exaltation in Ashwini indicates a nature compatible and conducive to the energy of the sun, which is known for righteous purity and expenditure of energy, in addition to scalding nature when things get too close. So this is extremely hot, the sun and Ketu. Ketu rules the hottest point as well, hotter than the sun. Not only seekers and healers, but also leaders and change makers, powerful presences, and ability to lead, and a radiant quality symbolistic of inborn power. Magha, on the other hand, is the next nakshatra ruled by Ketu in the Leo subset of the zodiac. It's connected to themes of authority, power, and respect for tradition. The symbol of this nakshatra is the royal throne. And the ruling deity is Pitris, which are the ancestors. These signify natives who will have a deep connection to their ancestors and will receive blessings and power because of this, preserving the legacy bequeathed to them through the generations. So this, I believe, Trump has MAGA, so he inherited a lot of his father's wealth to help him, right? Strong inclination towards exploring rituals, history, the metaphysical truth, seeking to understand their place within the cycle of life and death. MAGA men often possess an inherent sense of authority and demeanor that commands respect, often finding themselves in roles that allow them to exert a significant influence and guidance over others from their drive for power and recognition. One example is Donald Trump, who is MAGA ascendant, right? So that's how he's seen it to people. Their leadership comes from dignified bearing and nobility, reflecting MAGA's royal kingly symbolism. It's the next element, the next evolution beyond Ashwini, right? Which literally rules the king, the sun, or the heart, the soul, the head. This intuitive connection fuels their desire to engage with the world in a way that feels instinctive and natural, allowing them to operate almost on autopilot. The final and most refined Ketu nakshatra Mula, or in the Sagittarius subset, encapsulates the essence of transformation and an unyielding pursuit of truth. Its ruling deity, Nariti, is the goddess of death and destruction and dissolution, playing an important role in its influence on this nakshatra and natives represented by the root of the plant. Mula signifies the foundation, inception, and most profound layers of being. Men influenced by Mula are distinguished by their urge to unearth and the underlying truths of life, a quest that compels them to probe into and understand life's most fundamental elements. These individuals are propelled by a need for authenticity and often involved in tearing down superficial, outdated structures to rebuild more meaningful, genuine ones. Their journey is one of continuous transformation with phases of destruction and rebirth, reflecting the cycle of life itself. This endeavor is challenging and demands courage, as it often entails venturing into the obscure and uncharted territories of the psyche and the external world. Mula personifies the essence of Ketu in its most powerful manifestation, showing its natives as relentless seekers of the hidden, uncomfortable truths that lie at the very heart of existence, driven by the need to strip away all that is insubstantial to reveal the core truths that make up the cosmos at large. Character depth that is both remarkable and elusive, their disposition heavily influenced by introspection and profound spiritual bent. So this is definitely one I would suggest you rewatch if you haven't seen it already, the Aquarius Sagittarius kind of video I did based on Prometheus and Chiron and how they kind of support each other in a sextile and why they do that, because Aquarius really brings this newness and this humanitarian idealism, the same thing that Mula or Sagittarius is looking for to strip the world of illusions. Such individuals often exude an air of understated simplicity, coupled with an inherent complexity that defies superficial expectation. K2 dominant individuals frequently exhibit a noticeable disengagement or indifference towards conventional societal success metrics and rules like material wealth, status, or typical career achievements, and are focused more on base instinctual survival. However, this lack of interest does not necessarily preclude them from attaining these successes. In fact, their innate ability to unearth concealed truths often positions them as agents of significant change or realization in others, providing them with a unique form of attention and influence. This laissez-faire attitude towards success and rules, in addition to their ability to attract and channel energy from their surroundings, paradoxically leads them to positions of immense power. I mean, Ketu can even take down Rahu, right? So despite an apparent absence of traditional discipline and seriousness often observed in most other leaders, their ascent to such roles can seem suspicious, calling to question the subtle yet powerful influence of Ketu in their personal and professional trajectories as it relates to subverting the rational mind, right? Because the mind is moon, right? So, but more than this, a lot of people tend to project. And Rahu, the opposite, which is people who operate more in superficial materialistic means, can project lies or rumors onto Ketu because Ketu doesn't really engage in anything. They could command a subtle yet significant influence characterized by an allure that is both captivating and somewhat unnerving. In gatherings, they might not be the most vocal figures, yet their impact is tangible, drawing admirers and leaving a memorable imprint on those they encounter. So, I mean, we all know Henry VIII was quite a ladies' man. This influence resembles a kind of gravitational force attracting people, not through an assertive persona, but through the depth of character. People in the vicinity of Ketu dominant men feel an inexplicable urge to confide in them or seek guidance, perceiving a hidden wisdom. However, the magnetic pull can also lead to a dynamic where others project their desires onto these men, interpreting their enigmatic void-like nature as a blank slate for their emotional or psychological needs. So people always kind of want Ketu to be what they want them to be. The phenomenon is particularly pronounced with Mercury dominant or moon dominant women, um, who are drawn to these men, sometimes mistaking the serene stillness of Ketu for the intense solar energy associated with solar mastered masculine principle. But really, Ketu is just checked out in their own reality, right? Such misinterpretations can give rise to a complicated interpersonal relationship where Ketu dominant men become the unintended focal point of intense expectations and emotions from others. Their role in social groups often hinges on their capacity to absorb and subtly influence the energies around them. This makes them effective, albeit unobtrusive leaders, advisors, or agents of change. They possess an ability to uncover truths and insights that might elude others, and this gives them power to understand, influence, and transform the energies around them in drastic ways. This tends to evoke extreme envy from other men. K2 isn't the type that is working out 5 days a week, maintaining a strict diet to stay in shape, or putting in the time or effort to rise to a position of authority. It is more like eating whatever they want and barely exercising, that still somehow they maintain a six pack and taking steroids. I don't know if they take steroids, they might, and being stumbled upon by a modeling agent who signs them out of the blue. This reminds me of a guy called Jeremy Meeks who was arrested and became a model from his mugshot. He has Jupiter in Mula. These individuals are also often the subject for envy for their innate stillness and detachment, traits that enliven them with a magnetic quality. This magnetism, ranking them as one of the most heated polar influences, second only to the sun, manifests in a presence that is both captivating and subtly disquieting, affecting others on a deep subconscious and often uncomfortable level. Rather, people are drawn to them out of a sense of obligation or a feeling that they should offer everything within their means to these individuals. This dynamic is reminiscent of an authority figure who commands an obsessive following, akin to a revered boss to whom everyone wants to offer gifts, engage discussions, and seek approval from, or in extreme cases, cross professional boundaries with. Their natural tamasic disposition, which requires external sources of vitality to sustain itself, inevitably attracts individuals ready to lavish them with excess energy and resources. So this kind of ties into its association with Shiva, right? The goddess Shiva of destruction. The instinctual adoration they receive, a facet of Ketu's malevolent influence towards the native acting as temptation from their spiritual purpose, can lead them down a more sensual and materialistic path, particularly if not moderated by external forces. This situation is is comparable to enabling a drug addict's harmful habits, right? Even Trump, I think, is known for eating unhealthily as well. These are the type of individuals to indulge in these types of things like drinking, smoking, or whatever else they can use to blot out their sense of identity. When K2 dominant individuals engage excessively in materialistic pursuits rather than intuitive self exploration, they often find themselves mired in dissatisfaction and left with a sense of emptiness that they struggle to comprehend. The enthralling influence of K2 can have a major impact on those around them, sometimes leading to attempts by others to remodel themselves to better align with the preferences of the K2 dominant person. This adaptation often entails the erosion of personal boundaries and the suppression of self preservation instincts driven by an overwhelming fascination or obsession with the K2 individual. It's almost like they are cult leaders who, without trying, command power over others. This phenomenon mirrors certain dynamics observed within the moon dominant people, who are recognized for their emotional depth, capacity for nurturing, and power over the masses. But K2's influence pushes this to another level entirely, since it's the eclipse point of the moon as K2, right? It taps into a more fundamental level of interaction where the boundaries between the self and the other occur or blur, right? So this is more like Steve Irwin, right? That kind of mental kind of taming of the beast. This positions K2 dominant individuals, especially men, as extremely influential figures in the lives of those they interact with. And this is because Rahu kind of represents the beast, the kind of hunger, the materialism, and K2 kind of quells that with the common man, right? Capable of inspiring. And so even Trump is kind of known for kind of relating to the common person. That's why he tends to put photos of him eating McDonald's, which is something that the subset of Americans that vote for him most likely are eating as well. So it just shows that further interaction with the people at large. They are capable of inspiring unsettling transformations in their admirers and followers, so that we definitely saw that with Trump and Make America Great Again. Their focus on sexual allure and the power dynamics it engenders contributes to a skewed perception of their character, often magnifying the bad boy archetype they follow. This label stems from societal expectations and projections rather than the individual's authentic self. In reality, many K2 dominant men may not inherently embody the dark or mysterious persona often ascribed to them. Rather, they seek normalcy and genuine connection. It is just that they struggle to do so due to the intensity of K2 leaving them bereft of normalcy, compelling them to navigate a complex social landscape that emphasizes their sexual persona and outward eccentricities over their true identity. Their pursuit of understanding the subtle intricacies of existence frequently leads them to explore unconventional paths, whether it's metaphysics, the occult, philosophy, religion, or other subcultural movements that provide them with a sense of purpose. So in Henry VIII's time, Protestantism, right? The rebellion from Catholicism. In environments where superficial interactions are commonplace, these individuals are not easily understood or appreciated. They can seem simple and grounded, but will shake up your life in more ways than you're probably wanting. Nonetheless, there remains a tendency for people to be drawn to these men, often submitting to their enigmatic draw. Ketu dominant individuals are perceived as aloof and controlling, which is a misinterpretation of their true nature. Their apparent detachment is not indicative of a lack of empathy or desire to dominate. They really don't want control. People just give it to them. Instead, it stems from their intense internal focus and the ongoing process of inner development and self-realization. Their internal journey is a reflection of their outer nature, often misunderstood by those who only engage them on a surface level. Their approach to love and relationships is characterized by a certain unpredictability. They are known for oscillating between periods of intense engagement and phases of extreme solitude. This pattern, which might resemble love bombing to certain people, reflects their struggle to balance their rich inner world with external relationships. K2 dominant individuals often appear to be on the receiving more than anything, they can recycle energy they get from other sources and redirect it. They maintain an aura of mystery even among those closest to them because they can go from being hypersocial to complete hermit in the drop of a hat, in addition to being completely different in their heads compared to how others perceive them. However, their compelling nature tends to attract a diverse array of individuals, many of whom attempt to pretend to be someone they are not, to align with the Ketu individual's desires, often at the cost of engaging in a sort of unspoken rivalry where people will try to false claim or lay claim to the K2 person. K2 dominant men often personify the archetype of the solitary seeker, captivating everyone's attention despite their preference for solitary introspection. This dynamic resembles the experiences of being famous, where irrespective of one's desire for privacy, there is a constant pull from others to engage in some sort of energy exchange, be it through a photograph, conversation, performance, or more intimate interaction. The intensity of interaction can be overwhelming and is a testament to the powerful presence these individuals possess. At gatherings, they might be found in the center of everything, even though they were just trying to sit in a quiet corner and have a deep conversation with somebody else, preferring the sanctity of their personal space. They also might not even attend, even though people will still try to drag them out. It can become draining and overly intense in the sense of K2 men's piercing ability to reveal hidden truths. It demonstrates the paradox of their existence. While they are naturally inclined towards isolation and introspective pursuits, their fundamental nature attracts others who seek to either bask in their auras or dolo energy to them, even when Sun and K2 natives themselves prefer the quietude of their own company. They don't usually follow society's rules or models. They break rules and submit to nobody. They don't give, they absorb. They absorb energy like a black hole, and they inspire others to direct energy towards them. The black hole is the point of, I guess, singularity or the dissolution, right? It's where we all return after death, right? It's a very strong force. I think it's part of the Milky Way, the Sagittarius subset of constellations. They have a strong shadowy demand over a room, and they tend to smoke as well. Powerful occult abilities, they're internal and hidden. Rahu seeks more to control itself than to control. Right, sorry. Give me a moment. Sorry. Rahu seeks more to control itself and control others, whereas Ketu is not trying to control itself or others. They just kind of naturally assume states of leadership. They have powerful occult abilities as well because they're so internal and hidden. K2 takes away material possessions, resulting in financial crisis and leaving their attachments behind. Rahu is domineering and autocratic, whilst K2 is submissive and susceptible in an almost ghostly-like manner. They are brave, unpredictable, and secretive, with much latent power and unexpected abilities and unexposed abilities. They easily become the tarot readers of society. They are curious detectives and they excel in research. They're investigative and watch life happen. They watch people and pick up the small details. It's a very divine nakshatra. They wait for new discoveries constantly. They exude a kind of disturbing and powerful dark sexuality, and they usually have larger eyes, which shows that they absorb and draw in light, not emitting it, versus Rahu natives, which tend to have a more piercing, kind of hunter-esque gaze. And that's part of why we evolved to have our eyes in the center, because we focus on one thing. We're not the prey anymore, where we need to observe all around us at all times. So I hope you've enjoyed this little delve into Ketu Men and kind of the themes that tend to play out in their lives. If you'd like to leave a tip, you can do so through the Buy Me a Coffee link, but I appreciate the views and subscriptions and likes. So thank you. Take care.